Hello there. Welcome to Noon Prayer Watch. It's Friday. Weekend is here. Shabbat Shalom. I have a very special guest with me this time. Last week I had Pastor Tim. It's kind of weird. I'm my guest, but I'm also not. I'm the host of the Friday show, and so it's a really weird relationship with.
We call it a win-win in America.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a guest and a guest.
So I have on here. We're not going to do a long intro because everybody knows me, but especially know you. You've been here. You're here. You're teaching. You're up here all the time. If you ever come to Christian Center, you're going to encounter Pastor John West. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you. That's Chinese. That has nothing to do with what I do, but it's all good. So I asked Pastor West. No, it's okay. I asked Pastor West to come on here. We want to talk about our time in doing ministry in Japan. Just to give some background, I've known Pastor John for a very long time, I believe.
Yeah.
I used to be in kids' church. He was a camp counselor. That's probably the first time I remember encountering him doing SmackDown in the cabins after kids' camp meetings and
the days before camera phones.
And people didn't, kids didn't narc on what was actually going on. You know what I mean? But not too many people got hurt.
No.
Back then, not too many people got hurt. Yeah. But we used to do media stuff. As far as ministry is concerned, I've traveled with you. Did you ever go when I went to Ecuador? Way back? Maybe not. Maybe
but I did.
You went later.
My first trip to Israel, you were on.
Yeah, that was
2011
or 11.
No, it was 2006 or 7.
We went 2021. I know.
Yes.
We were. I was like an adult then.
No, but I'm saying when you were younger. The first trip that I went on, it was 2006, I think, and you were on that trip.
That was my second one, but
your second trip.
I was.
I know that because I was cleaning out
my
my photos the other day, and I actually found a photo of you and I.
Right, you were there, yeah.
It was so long ago. I showed your dad. I said, "Look,
was that the time we met?
The well of Beersheba doesn't even have a shade structure."
Was that time we met Dove? You were there. Yeah, you were one of the. Okay, I remember that. I remember that.
I didn't know that was your second time.
That was my second time. I went when I was a little kid. Anyway, we were there, and then the last 3 years you have come to visit us in Japan, and we have taken you all around and done some ministry. So I would like to talk about that. If you don't know, Pastor John has been all over the world: Africa, South America, Europe, of course, North America. Yeah. You've been in the Far East. Have you been to Australia yet?
Nope. I have 5 of 7 continents, but I don't have Australia and Antarctica yet.
Antarctica, you never know.
I've been about 37 countries now.
Penguins need the gospel too. Anyway, I wanted to talk about Japan. You've been there. You've gotten a lay of the land. You're probably quite familiar with some of what's going on there. So I got a couple of questions. Bless you.
Sorry for that typhoon.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you. We're not going to, again, most people are familiar with what you have done. We're not going to go into all of that. We're just going to talk about your experience in Japan and focus mainly on that there. So you've ministered many places, all over the world, many countries. You've even lived overseas for quite a long periods of time. How do we say? Longer than some mission trips usually go. Yeah. What's the longest you've spent abroad?
4 months.
4 months in Africa, right?
Yep.
Lord bless you. Yep. Would you do it again?
Yeah, I totally would do it again. I loved every minute of it. It was a very life-changing experience, and
just curious. Is there any place, the Lord calls you, He gives you grace? Is there anywhere you could not go?
Honestly, I think I would have a hard time in Japan.
Really?
I really do, just because I'm an outgoing kind of person, and the Japanese culture is very reserved, that I've learned from you that, at least in a secular context, it takes I think I remember you telling me it takes up to maybe a year to make like a friend and
a true friend.
And when you are when you're going out with somebody, you plan it like a month ahead.
Yeah.
And I remember when you told me that, I was like, oh my God. And of course, like you said, if the Lord gives you the grace.
Yeah.
But in my natural mind, I was like, wow, I don't know. I think of Japan as almost like an introvert's paradise on some level.
It can be, yeah.
You can just go and I don't know. I think that's one of the beautiful things about Japan, honestly, is the not to be too punny, but it's like a meditative state.
Yeah.
It's a place where you can really reflect.
Sure.
Is a thing that I really enjoy.
I will
there.
say that sort of social situation is definitely an urban phenomenon.
Yeah.
In the urban areas. And because I live in a big urban area now, and I'm used to that. That was really hard for me to adjust to, actually. And I'm kind of used to that now, even though I'm not a fan of it. That whole, like, you have to plan everything out, and it's hard to make friends. But I get culture shock within the nation sometimes when I go to the countryside where my in-laws live in places like that, and people are much more flexible and friendly.
Yeah, they are.
And then that's a Christian community, so there's that.
It is.
That's a part of what makes it easy to connect with people out there. But if it were like people I did not share the same belief system, and it would probably be harder.
Yeah.
So
I think that's another beautiful thing about Japan is that you can the Christian communities. Even with people like this is something that you told me once, and I was like, "Wow!" You said, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that the average person who's just exploring Christianity maybe goes to church for almost a year before
some people do, yes,
accept Jesus. But even within the church community, it's a very distinct culture from Japanese culture in the sense of. I have a few of the same traditions and stuff, but just one of the things I think is very interesting about the Christian culture there is they're much more expressive than maybe the culture at large, at least with their words, and they're communicating. Whereas Japan, one of the fascinating things I find about Japan is how artistic they are, and it's just a thought. I'm not saying it's true. It seems like they express themselves through their emotions, through their art primarily. And I can't think of another culture that loves art as much as Japan. Maybe France or something like that. But, France, they're not reading comic books at breakfast.
No, they don't.
That was one thing that when we went there, every hotel has got a library of manga that's as big as this wall.
Yep.
And that was, I'm not a comic book reader extraordinaire, but I know that people that read comic books read it because they like the art on some level.
Yeah, sure.
And the Japanese, worldwide. I mean, anime just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah, we say soft power. Japan's has a very strong soft power. Like culturally, they influence nations, not so much with military and trade and so much. They do a little bit, but not like America.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially in certain areas. I found that coming back here, it's even increased. Japan's influence has increased in America.
Sure.
Meeting people here, and they're always, because they, when I'm from there, they ask me about that. Do you like that? Like this stuff? Do you like to watch this show or read that? Sure. I don't really anymore. Yeah. When I was very, very young, I liked it a little bit, but yeah, their soft power is definitely increased. So I wanted to ask you, you've done some ministry there. You've been there 3 times. You've been to many different places. How is ministering in Japan different than other places you've gone to?
I think that one of the things there is because you have one dynamic is you have people that are going to church who sometimes they have no idea about different Christian things because they're non-believers, and so they come. And I'll never forget one time I was talking about. I forget even what I was preaching on, and there was a guy there who was a non-believer who, I appreciate this kind of bluntness, which I think is unusual for any Japanese person because they're not very blunt, but he literally goes, well, that's fine for you because you're a Christian. What about me? I don't believe. And I was like, what? In my mind, I was sitting there going, wow, this is a guy that listened to what I said and thought, well, that's really good, but it's only for you. And so what good does that do me? Yeah. And I thought, wow, thanks for your honesty. And so, just spoke the gospel to him after that and said, hey, this is what it is. But I remember that being something that was unusual. The thing, again, and I guess it's similar to Eastern Europe in some ways where, people are not very just in general, not the church. but they're not very expressive, right? Everybody kind of keeps to themselves.
If you teach them to be expressive, they can be.
Yeah.
But generally, I would say no. They'd sit there and be quiet.
Yeah.
And if if it's in serious interrupting us here, if it's if you're funny, like if you're Japanese and you tell a joke, they'll probably laugh. Like one church I ministered in, sometimes they do that, but in general, yeah. Comedy works a little bit differently, and so with a translator, like comedy there has to be. It's not that they don't think it's funny; it's just comedy has to be very obvious. Like this is a joke. Get ready to laugh. It's going to be funny, probably.
Yeah.
And if you do, we have like in America in the West, we have this like sort of subtle, sarcastic way of speaking. They don't catch it because that's not a thing there. Sarcasm doesn't work there.
I know, which is another reason why I would have a hard time.
Yeah, you probably would. I say that because I've had friends, I've had people from America who come and work with us, and one girl I knew, she was super more than you probably. Everything she said was sarcastic, and she went there and she suffered because she didn't know how to communicate. She didn't know how to. I got a fly in my face.
Yeah,
and so like after a year, she just gave up and. She was a different person after a year.
Well, that is something that I noticed when we were there. Just even communicate with the people with English. Of course, I find all kinds of cultural things really funny, and I constantly like to observe. And I remember you telling me about how the Japanese comedy is just kind of different, and you were trying to explain it, and then I remember one time where I think we were flying to Kumamoto, or back from Kumamoto, and I watched. There was a girl in the seat next to me, and I saw her watch a Japanese comedy show,
like a stand-up.
Yeah, it was like a stand-up type show. I could tell it was a comedy kind of variety show.
Yeah.
And she was laughing really, really, hard at it, and so I was kind of interested because I started paying attention because. I was like, wow, she's finding this really, really funny. And you explained this to me a little bit before I was there, but they find the humor in the contrast and in the sense of like one of the guys was like a fat guy.
They do like Laurel and Hardy or Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. You have a serious person and a goofy person.
Yeah.
They do. That's the most popular form of comedy.
It's that contrast of is what's funny. So it's a little bit slapstick and it's a little bit more on the contrast side, like you said, where everything is spelled out. But one of the things I also found interesting about Japan is like I said, particularly with sarcasm, because it's a subtle thing sometimes. Sarcasm is. But the Japanese are like masters of subtlety.
In general, yes.
Yeah, they are like
exactly, and even in their own way, humor as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like I remember reading a cultural studies book that said that you have low context cultures and high context cultures, and a low context culture is very direct. Like America is a very low context culture, meaning that I'll be real direct with what I want. Japan has the highest context culture in the world.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And so what that means is, and it really gave me, it's like if you don't understand something, it's your fault that you didn't catch it.
Yeah, you do.
There's a lot of like, it made me really kind of, it brought a whole nother level. And we've watched the movie Silence about the two missionaries. When I watched that from understanding a little bit of Japanese culture behind it, it added a layer to the movie that I wouldn't have got if I had just watched it from a strictly Western mindset. That was something that fascinated me about Japan.
Do you sense any of that like when you minister with people?
No, because I might be sarcastic in the U.S. when I'm ministering to people. I try not to be. Just because I know that it's not jokes don't translate real well. They're hard for unless they're just like you said, obviously goofy. I have what I consider to be a lot of funny stories. I don't know how well they translate sometimes, or whether people find their
irony. If it's ironic, sometimes people don't understand why we're fascinated with that. Sometimes I wonder myself. I did want to say, since you brought it up, just for the audience to understand like what we're talking about when it comes to translation, it's such a broad way of thinking and speaking. There's a story. This is a true story. Jimmy Carter. I don't know if you've heard this. Jimmy Carter, president of the U.S. at the time, went to Japan to speak. And he has this audience, and he's speaking, giving his speech. His translator is translating, and he tells a funny joke. And the translator, without skipping a beat, says, "Mr. President has said a joke. Everybody please laugh on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. And when he did it, the entire audience laughed because, as you said, they understood the context, and they followed it, and they played along with it. And so Jimmy Carter said a joke. Everybody's laughing. He thought, hey, I nailed it there.
Yeah.
Because the culture is also really respectful of people, honoring people. Sure. They don't want to bring shame, especially the President of the United States. And so that just goes to show when it comes to the humor, you got to be careful.
Well, and that was another thing that made me, another thing that I found fascinating about Japan when you told me that there's no such thing as like insult humor or roasting people.
No, that would be like,
it'd be very, it's
very
like
offensive.
The Japanese, they have such a, their strength is the whole honor. Mm-hmm. They honor people, and I mean, of course, every strength can be a weakness at some level, but because you may not get to the truth on some level. But that was a very fascinating thing to me. Yeah. One of the things that's very interesting in Japan. I don't know. I found the people in Japan very receptive. It seems like to me that they're receptive. I know that over there, like when Scott and I have gone before, we're like, we are the young. Yeah, we're the young guys, and we're not that.
You're the young.
We're
bucks.
not that old.
And so we run into problems sometimes, especially when we go somewhere new, because they're expecting a minister to be old and gray and experienced, and y'all aren't. Even if you feel, I don't know how you feel as far as your age or whatever, but you're in your 30s and 40s, and they're expecting 60s and 70s. Yeah. What do you know? Especially if someone in the audience is older than you. Why should I listen to this young whippersnapper talking about all this stuff?
You know that part of that is a cultural thing that they get from Confucianism.
Yep, exactly.
Because Confucianism says only the older people have.
That is exactly correct.
The wisdom.
So and it's also hard for churches there to pass the torch to the next generation sometimes, because especially if you're a pastor, you have a church, and then you're older. Now it's time to raise up the next generation. And it could be some person who grew up in the church. They were a kid, teenager, 20s, 30s, or whatever. Even if they go to university or seminary and get the qualifications to be a minister, qualification alone doesn't always float your boat in Japan. You have to have reputation and respect from the people, which requires time. Yeah. And so because you guys have gone with us, come over for 3 years, to the ministries that we've been visiting, now you have a little bit of reputation, Sure. And so you have a little bit more. They're a little bit more open to what you have to say. Yeah. We don't really run into that hard,
and we haven't run into that hard. I just know that I remember you saying that was a dynamic.
Well, I will say
everybody that we've come to has been extremely hospitable.
I will
very
say
hospitable.
There have been places we have not gone because sort of this issue. Yeah. At first we had like an open door here, but then it's like, oh, we don't know these guys. I don't know about that kind of a thing.
Which is understandable.
Yes, understandable. So like when you minister, going to my next question for you here, when you minister in Japan, what's easy and what's hard?
Man, that's a good question, Jacob.
It's different. So there's going to be easy parts and hard parts, probably.
I think a challenge I always think about is when there's translation, is stuff being translated. I think that's always the hardest part, and I don't know. That's probably something that I think about in every country. Yeah, is this being translated correctly? And then, it's easy to love the people. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's almost like, it's kind of, when I go to Japan, it is like another world in the sense of, I'm just telling you that, like, when I go to a city of 9 million people and there's no trash on the ground, I'm like, this could be done.
Yeah, is this possible? Yeah.
Like. So it's easy.
I remember you guys because
it's easy to get them.
Yeah,
I tell you.
Well, you guys always say when we go there because they leave a lot of stuff like outside in front of stores or whatever, and you're like, people don't steal this stuff. Like,
I don't know. You know what's easy and different. You know, I think that just depends on. I can say honestly, this last time that we went. I think when you first arrive to a place, you know, even to the people you're with, you're kind of shiny and new a little bit. And to some extent, it's almost like the demons don't know you there. So you're just there. But once you kind of start shining, it's like, okay, enough of this. And there's a little bit more resistance. And so I know this last trip that we went on, I was in one church and it just felt hard for some reason, and I was like, well, Lord, what's going on? And I saw this demon in the spirit realm that I had no idea. I'd never seen this thing before, and I looked it up, and it was actually something in Japanese folklore. You know, if you remember, it's that bull with the crab claws.
Okay,
that has a crab body.
I forgot the name of it, but yeah,
it's called an oni, I think. I think
oni is all demons, basically. Yeah.
But it was and in the region that we were in, that was one of the things that was one of the spiritual things there, and so I had not seen that in the previous times we've been there. So to me, that's where, you know, when you talk about hard, I think that, you know, I think every country has cultural things that you have to deal with and cultural mindsets. And I think, you know, we're no different in that area at all. But it's just, you realize that like, oh, this is really real. Whereas before it was kind of like, okay, you know, and I don't think people understand there's and you've been there for 11 plus years now, right?
Yep.
And so you understand that there's a price that comes with consistency of mission. Okay. And so I know for me when I first like accepted the fact that you know, that I was going to be on the mission field, it's one of the reasons I went for a long-term trip is because I wanted something that was a little bit...
In Africa for 4 months?
Yeah. I wanted something that was a little more raw in the sense of this is what the day-to-day life looks like. And so, you know, you can go to a place, you know, short-term.
Yeah.
And culture is interesting. But then when you start talking about culture shock, that's when it really hits you like, no, you have to operate this way. Like you have to, you know, and I got that when I was in, so I'm always looking for different, it's always fascinating to me. It gave me a different perspective when I go to a country about the different types of things, especially, you know, all the different things. I think one of the things, too, that's interesting about Japan is that, like that guy, because of the religious structure in the system, they don't really have any metric for eternity.
Yeah.
Like that's not something that is just on their mind.
Just for context, they believe basically in reincarnation.
Yeah.
So they just think they're going to come back.
Yeah.
And if they're bad, they'll come back as, you know, a cockroach and work their way back up to
and
human.
So that's one of the challenges of I mean, to me, that would be something that would be kind of hard, is because if you're talking to somebody that they have all the time in the world, you know, it's a little bit hard to change that idea to like, no, there's an A and a B, you know, and after B is done, you're done. You're not coming back. And so that's a little bit different than when you have people who have a little bit more of a, you know, what we call linear culture.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh no, you've got to end in the beginning. You're not coming back.
Many times.
That's a different challenge in Japan, and I would say even you know, just Asia in general, because they have that kind of that's just the way that. Yeah, I mean, there's a blessing in understanding that time has cycles and things like that.
Sure.
And that's the flip side of of that kind of thing. But yeah, those are some of the things. When you say what's easy and what's hard, I think that I tell you, one of the things is, and again, this depends on the region. I remember the first time when we went to Nagasaki, and I was just shocked because I can remember we literally crossed the entering into Nagasaki, and it was like boom.
Yeah, we drove from a different prefecture into that. We didn't fly. We drove into it.
Yeah, it was like an open heaven there, and I found myself going, "Oh Lord!" Like I could just. I think we stayed there 2 days, and I was like,
we stayed a night, 2 days, 1 night,
and I was like, "Wow, I could stay here for a week."
Yeah.
And it was so peaceful.
That area of the nation is where Christianity grew there. That's basically where it stopped growing and it was cut off. And so sacrifice has been made. I mentioned this with Pastor Tim, I think last week.
Yeah.
There's blood in the ground of the martyrs there. And so when it comes to operating in the Spirit, there's something there that isn't in the rest of the nation.
It is. And it's a tangible, and I mean, it's all beautiful, but I can't tell you how many people that I've told, like, hey, if you're looking for a place to go overseas for vacation on a cruise, go to Nagasaki. Yeah. I mean, it's just beautiful. There's so much history there. We went to the nuclear bomb museum there, and it's very well done museum.
Also, some it's Catholic, but like martyrdom.
Yeah, that museum was a wonderful where I think it was it 13 or 23 martyrs. The original.
I think it's 20 something. I don't remember the number.
20 something, but they have.
It could have been 13.
They have that monument there, and I think the Pope's been there, and Mother Teresa and all that. Yeah. And they have some relics there that are interesting. But yeah, that was kind of I think when I think about Japan, I think about how even in the history of Christianity, they have that period of time where it got kind of syncretic a little bit, and it kind of came back to where. It's kind of back on the path, for lack of better words. The people recognize it. That's a fascinating piece of just Christian history.
Yeah, it is. Because of that unique history of the area, it is considered its own sect or denominational family. Yeah. In the Christian, if you're talking about academically Christianity, because they had to go on. They call them literally the hidden Christians, and it was Catholic based, but they would. They would practice their faith in secret, and because in Catholicism you have statues or whatever, they would have Buddhist statues. It's a man, but even though it's a man, it's actually Jesus. But to hide that from everybody else, it would be Jesus, or this woman would be. It's a Hindu goddess, but it's actually Mary.
Mary, yeah,
and. At that it was obviously theologically that's not the best practice, but it was one of these things that was the only way they could worship and follow Christianity. Otherwise, they would be immediately killed, and most of them were killed. It was almost completely wiped out.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, I say that I'm not. It's honestly, it's one of those things that it sits there and makes you. Because we all know what we think we would do.
Yes, but what would you do?
What would you do though? Is a whole nother
and that was the
question.
That was the only way they knew how to worship God. They only had the Jesuit version of Christianity at the time.
Right.
So.
But to me, I always if somebody ever asked me about that, and they're like, "Well, I don't think that's right." Well, I'm not going to armchair quarterback history, but my thing is that when it came back to them. They recognized it immediately, and they went back to the original path. So to me, that's fruit that they made the right decision.
It's a step forward.
Hot take, but
hot take.
That's
We don't cast stones here.
I haven't asked the Lord about that. I'm going to say, but I'm just telling you that's what my scriptural mind says.
Right. Okay, so next question, final question, then we'll wrap up. What are some of your favorite experiences and encounters? You shared one earlier. But do you have any other that come to your mind?
Besides Nagasaki, there's a few things, and you know me. There's some things that I find just funny. I think Nara is a very beautiful. It was amazing to go to the Buddha statue there in Nara.
Oh yeah, the big temple. Yeah,
where, if I'm not mistaken, it was there since 700 BC.
Yeah, it's old, very old.
700 BC. They have a lot of earthquakes in Japan,
Yeah.
and this thing was massive. I mean, it's the biggest.
What, maybe 3 stories tall?
Yeah, it's like 3 stories tall, and I was like, wow, like that was, and just to really, like, to me, that was where you really started to feel like people that are actually devout. That to me was where, because as you've explained to me, because like in Japan, that was one of the things that when I went was very interesting to me, that Buddhism and Shintoism basically share the same public parks, you know.
Yeah, they're usually right next to each other.
Yeah, right next to each other, even though they're totally different.
Yep.
But to me, that was where you saw like the devotion of people. You saw that was in a higher area, and that was where you really, I don't know, for me, that kind of gave me more of a burden. Like they had, they have a little statue outside the statue, which, you know, forgive me, but it kind of looked like Aunt Jemima, and it was like a healing. It was like a healing disciple, and so what the tradition was is that you would go up and you would kiss this statue, and then you would put your hand on it, and then you'd put your hand on the body part that needed to be healed. And just to see people come up and do that really was like, wow, this is, you know, that's where their hope is at right there. And it made me kind of go, man, there's a better way.
Oh, yeah.
And, and stuff. And so that was a really, I enjoyed seeing that. You know, I enjoy just going and eating at noodle houses with different people.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's always a great thing to get to know people. You know, I don't know. You know, I get asked that a lot. Like, what's your favorite places in the world? And I mean, for me, it's the people.
Oh, sure.
I don't have a favorite place in the world. Obviously, there's places I think that are more beautiful.
Sure.
Than
the people
others,
make the place,
but the
right?
people make the places, and so it's kind of hard for me to separate the two because, you know, you love all of them. Even if I, like, you know, I said at the beginning of the show, like, man, I think I would have a hard time living there unless, you know, the Lord told me specifically. That doesn't change the fact that, like, I love the people.
Right.
I remember their faces and you know, I
you probably get along better in Korea where they're more open and they can speak English.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but what about during ministry, like within the churches that we go to? Do you have any experiences?
You know, I think one time I remember, from what I understood, but there were 2 things that stand out. One, the first time we went to a church, and in the spirit, I saw Camilla dancing there.
Yeah.
I saw her dancing there.
Pastor Hooper's wife.
And Scott's wife. And in the spirit, I was like, okay, this church is going to have some dance, and this is where we need to do that. So this last time she got to come with us, and she actually did
2 years
that.
later, right? 2 years later, yeah.
2 years later, she actually came to that very church and did what I saw in the spirit. They did a class, and they loved it. And, you know, to see, like, you know, a couple of the little girls there just pick right up on it and begin to participate with it. Like, to me, I was like, that really
that was cool.
touched my heart. I really, I always enjoy when the prophetic comes and it kind of confirms some things. I can remember one guy, I told him, like, hey, you're not going to live here in Japan. You're going to go and do this and this and this. And he told me later, he goes, yeah, he goes, that's not, he goes, I've really been looking at other countries to go move to because I feel like it was just a confirmation to him that that was the direction he was supposed to go. That was something that really stuck out to me. And another thing that really just touched me too about, like, the presence of God. There have been several meetings that this has happened in where, because the Japanese are not outwardly very emotional, when the presence of God comes and you see, like, men crying or just that because I know that's not a natural cultural thing. It just lets me know, like, it just kind of solidifies the fact that the presence of God comes in whatever culture, and it overwhelms us to the point where all we can do is cry at His goodness, and because it's like we're encountering life itself, and I think I love seeing that, because I know that that's what when I think about Japan, the statistics. I mean, they have one of the highest suicide rates in the world, and so like to me, when I see that, I'm like, yeah, Lord, you can be anywhere, right?
Absolutely,
you can be anywhere, and it just reinforces that idea. We know that intellectually, but spiritually, it just seems like when that happens, it makes me go, yeah, yes, Lord.
Yeah, that's what's crazy about that, because they don't have the whole religiosity that we have in the West when it comes to Christianity. When you're in an environment where the Spirit of God, the presence of the Lord comes in the room, whether it's elderly, middle-aged, normal age, whatever, young, they don't think about any of that. They just react to it. And especially when it comes, because I've spent a lot of time doing ministry with kids. Like kids that I know what they know, I know what they believe, I know they don't go to church, but then stuff happens in meetings that we have like kids camps and things like that. We do worship, and I'm just blown away, because it's 100% authentic and real. They're not faking it. They're not trying to be showing off or anything. They don't know anything about charismatic ministries or revivals or anything like that.
And
that's what's fascinating.
It's almost like and to me, one of the things that it's kind of like that thing we were talking about earlier, where they pick up on subtlety. Like it translates to things of the Spirit. They catch things quick, especially in the prophetic. We say things like it's better caught, not taught.
Right.
It seems like they catch those things. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. You know what I mean? They can pick up. They're like, oh, well, so yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, they're generally accepting, especially younger people. They're accepting of what you're teaching.
They catch things pretty quick.
You'll find resistance with the older generation that have been trained theologically by their denominations, who are mostly cessationists, and so when it comes to prophetic stuff, it's like, hold on, because there's been a lot of abuse, unfortunately, in Japan with people with that title, and so it's got a bad perception. And that reminds me of something you told me. It might have been. This is what really kind of fascinated me. I think it was the first time you came in. We went to Kyoto, which is, we got a mug back here.
Yeah,
Kyoto.
Represent.
We went there, and I took y'all to. I wanted to show y'all what the spiritual side of Japan was like, because that's the spiritual capital of Japan, pretty much. It used to be the capital. It's not anymore,
right?
Because of war and civil wars and
that's right,
all that sort of stuff. But they
the best matcha too, right?
Yeah, they do. That's where it all comes from. Yeah. But I took y'all to this temple, and I asked you about how you felt Japan was spiritually, whatever, and you said something to the extent of, it was like there was this really thick veil, but it was easy to peel.
I remember.
Do you remember what you said exactly?
Yeah, I do, because I felt like Japan was like a cloud.
That's what it was, yeah.
And if you peel back the cloud, you would just get to Hinduism.
Oh, yeah.
At its base, it's Hinduism. So it's almost like Buddhism and Shintoism are the incense of Hinduism,
right?
Which I remember. We went to a museum that had a lot of different cultural artifacts, and we went to this one area that had a lot of Hindu artifacts that I'd never seen before in any type of museum that I've been to around the world. And I remember it felt so dark in the sense of like I didn't even want to be in that area anymore. And that was where I was like, okay, this is really because I think that Hinduism on a scholarly level, we know, of course, a little bit better because we ask better questions. But Hinduism is one of the oldest religions in the world, and when at the end of the day, Hinduism is you serve whatever you want to, and
basically
you'll be okay. And that's really how we all kind of are, whether we have a God on our shelf or not. We have our own God. And
you believe what you want at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so I felt like this was a cloud. It was like a cloud because when you're there, it's like this little fog gets on you a little bit where you're like, what's behind this? And I think the root of it is Hinduism.
Oh,
and I think
definitely,
that's
absolutely.
That's
But when you said that, it made me realize that there's this fog there, but fog
Yeah.
is kind of easy to pierce. You just gotta pierce through
You
it.
got to get some wind in there and blow it out of the way.
And so, like, it's hard. Sometimes we encounter misconceptions and things like that, and it's like every single time, oh, this is so annoying. But in reality, it is. You just have to be persistent, and you have to keep dispelling that fog, like you were saying.
You have to recognize it's
I think
a spirit.
that can be something that's different than other cultures where they're set in their ways, and it's like And so that's why, even though there's a lot of work to do in Japan, that's why I have hope, because it's just a matter of, as Scripture says, we need workers for the harvest, and we don't have enough there right now.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thank you for talking with me. That's about all my questions I have. Do you have any final words you would like to say? With
Japan it's a beautiful country. It's a beautiful people, and it's like I said, if you ever want to just do an excursion, it's a great. I don't know. I think I did not know going into Japan that it was 80% mountains.
Yeah,
and
78%. Yeah,
and yet there's parts of Japan that look exactly like Hawaii. And, but yeah, it's a beautiful country. I am. I don't know. I think. I mean, I don't have the full picture that God has for Japan, but it's the future is bright because the righteousness. It says in Proverbs, the walk of the righteous, it gets brighter, and it keeps on getting as bright as the new day. And so I think for the church, I think that there are strategies that the Lord's going to release to really get a foothold and break some of the things. They're going to be shaken out of one way of looking at time and realize that there are other ways of time that are in the Scripture. And I think that the Lord's going to do that. And I think, one of the healthy things about Japan is the honor. And, there's a lot of places that say they have community, but I can honestly say that Japan has a safe community.
Right.
And when you say family, they have family, but it's a safe community in the sense that that was something that just blew my mind too as well. It was unnerving being from a neighborhood that I grew up in.
Yeah.
It was unnerving that it was that
everywhere
safe. Yeah, it's all safe. So
yeah,
but we're looking forward to going back and seeing what the Lord has.
Amen. Well, thank you, Pastor West,
Thanks
for
having
talking to me. Thank you all for watching up until this point. If you've made it this far, we will see you next time. Thank you for your prayers. Please continue to pray for us, sowing into us financially as well as spiritually. We feel your love out there, and we will see you next time. Next time, I will be in Japan. I'm going back on Monday. So I will see you all guys in the future. But thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.
I'm Pastor Tim Carscadden here at Christian Center of Shreveport. We pray this was an encouragement to you. If it was, we'd like you to subscribe to our channel. Go down there, push the button, turn on your notifications so that you'll be notified when we come back on the air for another live stream. Thank you for watching today, and we look forward to you joining us again.